Hello, welcome to this video. Thank you for watching, and now I'll show you the agenda. I'll show you the topology, also how Jenkins and Git and Kubernetes can work together, and then we'll build the Golang web app and deploy it on Kubernetes. It's a small and simple web app, so I'll show you the topology. Everything is running on VMs on my laptop. It's a small lab. Only one VM is running on the public cloud because I don't have enough resources for the 4 VMs. One is a Kubernetes master, then the Kubernetes node, a Jenkins server, and the Git server. It can be a GitHub, but I want to show a private repository, very simple with SSH. And the flows are very important. My laptop will act as a developer station, commit and push to the Git server. Jenkins has to fetch, right, and build the code, build the container, push it to the Docker hub, so Kubernetes can build with kubectl will deploy the application on Kubernetes, and Kubernetes master will be able to pull the image from the Docker hub. So that's basically the topology and the flows. Now I'll show you my script. It's a very simple one. I just do a git add, a git commit, and a git push, and then I trigger the build with curl and the Jenkins URL. I'll show you the details later. Just check the user and password because I'm using authentication for security. So this is the Jenkins console. I'll show you the settings for Jenkins. Nothing very special. Just for you to know how the authentication works. So let's go to Manage Jenkins, and then we go to Configure Global Security. You have to add users. We'll not check that in this tutorial, but we'll check the security configuration just for you to know the URL, the build URL authentication. So here we show the permissions you can have for anonymous users or specific users or all authenticated users. So this time we'll use a specific user, but you can change that later. And then we'll check the project is a freestyle project. So let's go to the details. This project is as I said, is a freestyle one. It has some plugins. I'll show you which ones. The mainly plugin is Git, right? So here you can put a description, the project name. Actually, you can change name if it has been created. So for the source code management, we use Git. This is the URL for SSH. And then you need to have the keys. I already did that. I'll show you that you can use the key just to log in without password. You confirm that, and that's it. You have to use SSH keys, and oh, sorry, I did a mistake with that symbol. I didn't escape it from the shell. So let's continue. Then you use the keys. Very important, this Jenkins application is running on my user. It's not running on the default installation. So I'm using the keys for my own Unix user. I prefer to do that, so I can manage my own keys and several stuff. You don't need root to run it. So this is the URL we saw in the curl command. You put an authentication token, and besides that, you have to put a user password, right? And this is the build script. Here, what we do is what we saw in the flows. You will do a Docker build, right? A Docker login for push to the GitHub, and then we'll create a Kubernetes pod with the kubectl commands. So this Jenkins user also needs access to the Kubernetes cluster. That you can do it using the kubeconfig file. There are several tutorials to do that. The important part is that Kubernetes can do this without requiring any password, at least for the Kubernetes cluster and the Git repository. So for the next steps, it will deploy a simple container just with kubectl run. We have to expose the port. I'll show you the Dockerfile later. And we use the build number to customize all the names and versions. So when we build a container, we can do it with different versions, so we know what we're doing, right? And then using the wrong container for a wrong deployment. There are other variables from the Jenkins environment. Well, we'll only use that one. And I'm building some names. You can customize that as well. And finally, we expose the service. We expose the service on a node port type. I'm not using load balancers here. That's an advanced configuration. So we checked from the Jenkins server that we can access the Kubernetes cluster. So it's okay, and we can continue. And finally, I forgot to show you the sleep 25. That's to give some time for the Kubernetes cluster to build the path correctly, right? Give it some time, right? And finally, I just filter out the container name, the Kubernetes service name, so we can see in the logs what is the node port we have to connect to. And that's it. With this, we can automate a complete deployment. We click Save. We go back to the Jenkins homepage. We see we don't have any build executor status, that nothing is running, right? This is build number 17, so when we trigger the build, it should go to number 18, correct? So let's go to the developer station, remember the topology, and now we will run the commit script. So we have it there, click enter, and that's it. It's very fast. So we now trigger the build. We can see number 18 is building, and let's go to the build status so we can see what's doing. You have to click on the console output, right? That's it. And here I already done all the git fetch, right? Check out and everything on the correct branch is automatically done by the Git plugin. It's the only plugin we're really using. And then it starts building the Docker container with the application. I'll show you the Docker file at the end. So this part takes some time, so please be patient. Now is finishing the Docker pushed. Okay, now that Docker image is in the Docker Hub repositories. Then we wait a little bit more because it's starting to run the Kubernetes steps. Okay, finished. Then let's give it some more time. It's finishing all the pushing on the Docker Hub. Now it's creating the pod in the Kubernetes cluster. That was really fast, and we're giving some time. Remember, 25 seconds for the Kubernetes cluster to finish the deployment. It's a small container, so 25 seconds should be enough. You have to test how much time your container really, or your containers, because you can build a deployment with a lot of containers. So finally we grabbed out the port, right? So now it's running on port 30586. So let's go to the node port, the node IP address. That's the node port deployment. You hit the node IP address. I only have one node, so this is only a demo, right? So now I copy paste the port, and I had an extra colon, sorry. So I'm putting down the port, and voila, the application has been deployed on containers with Kubernetes. And we have some more details to discuss. Yeah, you can say hooray, right? So we have some more details to discuss on this video. Let's check the Docker file for you to understand some parts, right? So the Docker file, it first is running from a Debian container, just a plain Debian, then updating that container. I like to run applications with a Unix user, not root. Expose the port. That's the port I want to expose. Is developed on the Golang application. And I build the binary, so I don't have to install Golang in the container. Check that it is a compiled application, right? So it's a Linux executable. And finally, add the static content. So here we have a simple Golang application, and we can see that we listened on the port 8188, right? So you don't have to change anything on the code. Just a standard web application can do it on Kubernetes. Thank you, and please don't forget to subscribe and like it. Thank you very much.